Hey everybody! It's been over a week since I did a live video last. I did not have a fill last week at all because my plastic surgeon was out of the office on the day that I normally go in. So uh, we just pushed it out a few days and we did one this morning. No big deal. I'm up to 300 cc's now, which sounds like a lot, but I'm very tall. So on my frame, I just look kind of on the small side, I think. So still going. Uh, my friend Megan came with me today because she's like me. She's very curious about anything medical. She wants to watch everything and see what's going on. So I let her come with me today and watch the fill process. She thought it was pretty interesting. She was laughing when we left because they do both at the same time. The surgeon will put the needle in, which is hooked up to this really long skinny tube, which is then hooked up to a giant syringe filled with 60 cc's of saline. So he'll put one in and hand that syringe filled with saline to his nurse, and then he'll run over to the other side and pop the other one in, and both of them just sit there and inject things. So I said I was going to do a video addressing genetic testing and the fact that my genetic testing was negative for 17 known genetic links to breast cancer, but I still had my breast removed preventatively. It isn't just the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes that they're testing for anymore. Those are the ones that people hear about the most. I had genetic testing done a few years ago for 17 different known genetic links, and there may be more by now. They informed me that when I did this, that this was not going to test for every genetic link known to man, just the 17 that they were aware of at the time of my genetic testing. I thought it would be a blood draw, because why not? But actually, it was kind of comical. I was just sitting in this woman's office, and she handed me a couple small vials about this big, not the size of my face, but more this big. And she opened up a hard Jolly Rancher, and she had me smelling this Jolly Rancher to stimulate my salivary glands, and then I had to very carefully spit into this tiny opening of both of those vials. And how, like, I had to this is going to sound weird, and if it freaks anybody out, I'm sorry. It was kind of like pouring a beer, because if you are salivating a lot and you're spitting a lot, it'll get foamy, and they don't want any bubbles. They just want as much undisturbed saliva as they can get, and they test your saliva. So no needles were involved in my genetic testing at all. Everything did come back negative for my genetic testing. However, my insurance still paid for me to have my breast removed. Well, what on earth? Why is that a thing? Apparently, because I did not know that if you had negative results that you could get this procedure paid for by your insurance company. For one thing, it depends on who your insurance company is. My company, which is Wellmark Blue Cross Blue Shield, if anybody is wondering, is very good about people over a certain percentage of risk. They will pay for this procedure based on your policy, and every policy is different. You have to know what your policy is, so go read your policy. I know it's boring, but go read it, because you never know how it could change your life. But after negative genetic testing, I was referred to a breast specialist. This was not my regular primary care physician. This is a company that just does breasts all day long. They determine your cancer risk, and they have this huge formulation that they use to determine your personal risk. They looked at the fact that my mother had breast cancer at a very, very young age. They looked at the fact that I, had a lot of cysts throughout, both breasts that they were always watching. Plus, they go out further, I'm sure as a lot of people know, and they look at your entire family. Well, my mom is one of 13 children, and she's one of the oldest. So far, she is the only one that has developed breast cancer, but some of them are still pretty young. So, I have one of my uncles is only like 4 or 5 years older than me. So, who knows what can happen with any of them down the line just because they haven't gotten it yet. But my mom was only 41 when she was diagnosed, which is very young. But they don't just look at breast cancer. They look at all of the cancer in your family because cancer syndrome is apparently a thing. So without genetic testing, my risk assessment of developing breast cancer was 1 in 3. I think that's pretty high, especially when I have 4 best friends and I'm looking around. I'm like, okay, out of the 4 of us, it's probably going to be me. You would think that with negative genetic testing that my risk would have crashed and gone to barely anything. It hardly affected my risk assessment. So instead of, okay, so I slightly over 1 in 3. Instead of a 33 point whatever percent chance they determined that I had, it only dropped me down to 26%. So I didn't even drop down to 1 in 4. I was between 1 in 4 and 1 in 3. So I'm still looking at my best friends thinking, it's probably going to be me. So I was above the level for my insurance policy for my insurance company to say, yeah, go ahead and do that. We'll pay for that. Every insurance company is different. Every policy is different. Not everybody's going to have, an identical policy to mine. So check. Also, I think it kind of helped that I was referred on to a breast specialist because this is all they do all the time. So they had a lot of information, and they were looking at stuff that other doctors I've had have never taken into consideration or looked at. So, it was very much in depth and very interesting. So it just depends on your risk level, and just because you test negative doesn't mean you're going to have a very low risk. They also offered me, instead of surgery, they also offered me some medications that could lower my risk. But again, it wasn't going to lower my risk very much. Like it was not going to put me below a 20% risk, which I realize that for some people, it's just like, some people will take that risk and that's totally fine. But I was tired of looking over my shoulder constantly and had already kind of accepted the fact that I was going to have to do this surgery at some point in my life, no matter what. So I just figured it'd be better to do it when I'm healthy and can just bounce back from it, as opposed to waiting until I get cancer and then having to do it, plus being sick on top of it, because I was just so worried about it. And ever since the surgery has been done, I haven't really worried about it again. And the cool thing about it is, okay, so having this procedure done does not take your risk level to 0. You will never be at 0% risk. It drops me down below what the normal population risk is, which I think it's either 1 in 12 or 1 in 15 women. I cannot remember right now off the top of my head which one of those numbers it is, but it's better than 1 in 3. So now my risk is more like 1 in 30. So that's good, but there is still a risk there. However, I will very, very likely, if it's going to develop, I will find it very, very quickly, because there's no longer any breast tissue to be palpated. The expanders and the implants that I'm having are going to be put underneath the muscle. So the muscle has been raised, and all that's left is muscle and a very thin layer of fat in my skin. So everything is right at the surface. So when this is all really smooth. So if I'm going to get a lump or anything, I'm going to feel it pretty early on. And then I can go in and get right on top of whatever treatment. So my risk is not 0. It's just better than average. So I can relax now. But yeah, so, if you have breast cancer in your family, even if it's just one person, go find out, or if you're one of those people that just doesn't want to know because we're all going to die anyway, then don't go find out. But knowledge is power. So then you can make decisions, that are best for you. And also, don't let other people try to tell you what to do. Like, if this is something you want to do and if it's going to make you feel better, just make sure that you weigh all the pros and cons and make the decision that's right for you. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'm doing great. The plastic surgeon told me that I could start getting back into my normal exercise regimen. He said just to take it really slowly with the weight bearing stuff. So with pole dancing, I have to go back a little slower and just kind of test it out. So no cliffhangers or iron X's for me right out of the gate. I'll be, doing some spins and seeing how inverts go, and because these muscles have been put under a lot of trauma from the surgery. So I have to make sure that it's not going to be too much for them to handle at this point. But yeah, so I'm excited to start doing stuff again. I'm not doing anything tonight at the gym though, because it's an advanced class and he told me to take it easy today, which he always tells me after a fill. So yeah. But anyway, as always, if anybody has any questions, feel free to reach out to me. You can message me. You can post comments on videos, because I do get notifications that happens. I get a lot of emails though, because people tend to kind of hold this close to them, and that's totally fine. I did too. I decided I was having surgery and booked it and didn't tell a lot of people for a number of months until the surgery got closer. And then I was like, oh, hey, yeah, by the way, I'm doing this. So I get that, holding it in close, because you have to process things in your own time and stuff like that. But message me, comment on the videos, whatever questions you have. Hopefully I can give you answers based on my perspective and my experience, and maybe point you in the right direction of, healthcare providers that you should be looking for. Hope everybody has a great week. Hope you all had a good Monday. Enjoyed the Super Bowl last night. And if you're not a football person, maybe the halftime show or just the food. Who knows? Anyway, I will check in with you guys after my next fill. Have a great night.